guys, welcome to a brand new video on my channel, Meg's Movies. If you are new to this channel, this is basically where I talk to you guys about my passion for movies. This goes from collections, hauls, reviews, and to today's video, so let's get into it. Okay, so this week's original versus remake, not gonna lie, was a little bit tough in the sense of what I had to watch. Of course, as you guys know, this week's episode is The Last House on the Left. So this is the Wes Craven original going up against the remake. This is a very tough film to watch. Both are very graphic, rather disturbing. So I will not recommend these films to anybody to watch unless you're happy to try and get through it, because this was Wes Craven, the director of horror, if you want to see how he started out. And if you want to see the remake, which is actually one of a few remakes that are pretty decent, then I'd say watch it, but it is very tough watching. So I'm just putting that pre-warning in now. But yeah, so before I get into my thoughts on the original and the remake and which one I choose, as you guys know, I make this series interactive with you guys, and I put a poll out each week for you guys to pick which one you prefer. Now, you guys picked the original. It came very close, not gonna lie, sort of like a 30% difference. But you guys went for the original. But the question is, which one do I prefer? Do I prefer the original or the remake? So let's get into it, starting with the original. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to put pictures up on here. Normally I put pictures to sort of like show off films and that. I don't think I will, just because of the simple fact of I just really don't want to. Yeah, so my thoughts on the original. Now, the reason why I watched this is because it was part of my 52-week movie challenge that Nick Turk picked out last week, and which was the first movie, first film of a famous director. I went for Wes Craven because he is my absolute favourite director of all time, and I want to work on a ranking of his movies. So, of course, this is one I haven't seen. Now, the remake I had seen once before, years and years and years ago, but I hadn't seen the original. So, of course, this is from like 1972? Yeah, 1972. So, of course, there is going to be a bit of a difference between 2009 and 1972. So, at the time of this release, I can see why it came across as the most graphic horror film ever. I can see why it was so disturbing for people, things like that. However, thanks to more recent horror movies like Saw that created the whole genre of torture porn and things like that, this was still graphic to me in the sense of what the story was about, and there's a couple of graphic scenes as well, but it didn't seem as graphic as I thought it was gonna be. Now, of course, with this being in 1972, it is a low-budget film, and it can come across as a bit campy, but that's what you get when you get classic horror films, and I don't mind the campiness. I will say it was rather disturbing to watch and try and power through. Like I said, both these movies will be one-time watches. I don't think I'll ever return to these again, unless it's for something to do with my channel, which, to be honest, I don't think it ever will be. But for what it was, I think it was a great start for him. Like, of course, you can see his horror techniques. You can see where he was going to go with things in the future. I will say the soundtrack is a little bit odd, because sometimes it will fit the scenes and then sometimes it won't, and it'll seem absolutely random. Like, at the end of the movie, once the whole thing is done with, there's happy music during the credits, and it kind of throws you off because you think, but I just watched this film, but you're playing a happy song during end credit scene. Like, that's not what I've just watched. I will say, like I said, this is a tough watch, and I think the only part that I did enjoy was the fact of the parents getting revenge for what happened to their daughter. I will not be doing plot explanations. I was meant to say that at the beginning, but I'll say it now. Because of what the story is, I really don't want to try and explain it. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But for what it was, I think it was a good start. And I don't know, it's just, I'm going to keep it in my collection just because it is an Arrow Blu-ray that I picked up. But at the same time, I don't think, like I said, I really don't think I'll return to this. It is one-time watch, but just because of the story. But the characters, the actors they got to play the characters didn't do too badly. Some of the lines were a bit cheesy. For some reason as well, like, it felt like it flip-flopped from a horror to a comedy. So when it was with the bad people and the two girls, it felt like a horror. But then you cut back to the police that are involved and it seems more like a comedy. So it can come across as a bit conflicting. To be honest, you kind of wait for the police scenes because then you feel like it's a bit more calmer. But it does give off that vibe of it's jumping from horror to comedy, horror to comedy. But overall, this is not a terrible film. I've seen worse films than this. However, like I said, due to the story, due to what it is, it's a one-time watch. But the question is, what is my thoughts on the remake? So this one I had seen once before. This was a while ago. To be honest, I didn't really remember much of this film. Even when rewatching it today for this video, I found out I forgot pretty much most of this film. Now, what I will say is, yet again, it is graphic, it is really weird. I mean, both films have got an unrated version of these films, and it's a bit concerning that there is two versions of each film. But I will say, because you got better budget, I think this one just comes across a bit more... What's the best word of explaining it? What's best word? Best way of explaining it. For me, the remake creeped me out a little bit more, but the original had the graphicness to it. Like, this was a bit graphic, especially near the end when the parents get their vengeance. But more or less in the original, the blood and things like that, there was more of it compared to what's in this one. However, I think I prefer the acting in this one. Like, the acting doesn't feel so campy. I feel like the actors they got to play these roles did very good. Like, they were so believable. And especially with the parents' revenge at the end. Like, the original one, the ending for the parents' revenge was rather cheesy. But with this one, it felt serious throughout the whole entire thing. And I don't know what it is, but I think the remake, I think it creeped me out a little bit more than the original. And yet again, I will say, one-time watch, do not recommend it. But if you do want to watch it, don't buy it on physical, buy it, like, watch it on streaming or something. But this remake is one of few decent horror remakes that we've actually gotten out of the years that have gone by. This obviously came out at a time when horror remakes were popular, because I believe this came out the same year that we got the Friday the 13th remake. I think the following year we got the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, we got House of Wax remake. So there was quite a lot of horror remakes at that point. So for this to actually be a pretty decent film is saying something. But yeah, it's just both movies, very similar plots, different character names in some senses, but still, it was quite shocking to see how this ended as well, because this ended slightly different to what the original did. I won't say what the differences are, but I think I prefer this ending because it felt like the parents had the motivation because of this. Like, the other ones did have the motivation, but they overheard what happened. This one, you know, things... It's very hard to talk about these films because they are dark, they are graphic, they are that kind of horror film that I will not return to. It's the subgenre of horror where if I watch the film once, that's it. That's no more watching it unless I have to watch it for my channel for something, which, to be honest, probably wouldn't ever happen. But thanks to this kind of horror, it's a little bit concerning because these things could happen in real life. And with horror, you do want that kind of thing where it is, oh, it might happen in real life. But then this kind of thing is something you don't want to happen in real life. So I will say, after watching both films, like after watching the original, I had to watch a happy film after that. And I will be doing the same today. So whilst this video is editing and uploading, I will be watching a happy film because the idea of just having watched this and nothing else creeps me out. So I think we all know what my winner will be, so I'm just going to go straight into it. The Remake. By a margin. Like, for the original, I'd probably give it a 3, but for this one, I'd probably give it a 3.5. I enjoyed this one a lot more in the sense of the acting didn't feel campy, you know. It felt modern and it went with it, and there were certain characters that were different from the original that I did like. And yeah, let's just say I honestly really don't think I'll go back to these. I honestly don't. And yet again, I will reiterate, watch at your own discretion. It's completely up to you if you want to see what these films are like. But for me, yeah, I'll keep them in my collection because, to be honest, this is a really decent remake and this is an Arrow set. So I will be keeping both in my collection, but it must probably just gather dust. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video, well, somewhat video, of my original versus remake. I'm not sure what next week's episode is going to be yet, but obviously I always put a poll out on a Friday, so you'll see what it is. But yeah, so I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then do give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to this channel, then go ahead, hit that subscribe button and also notification bell down below to be notified when I post. And also leave me your comments and thoughts on The Last House on the Left. Do you have the same feelings as me? Do you prefer the original? Do you prefer the remake? Let me know in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!